which brings us to Anthony Davis. We give him, I shouldn't even say Travis, give him a ton of you-know-what for missing games, for getting knocked over all the time, for frequently having nights where you forget he's out there and he's a non-factor, et cetera, et cetera. Anthony Davis has been MVP level good all season long. Anthony Davis has been available all season long. And when we're going to give a guy a hard time for not being available, you're going to give a guy a hard time for disappearing in big moments, give the guy some credit for being as good as anybody else in the NBA through roughly the halfway point of the season. Anthony Davis has been terrific all season long, and last night they won the game because Anthony Davis was terrific.
It's not fair, but this is how it is. This is how not just sports works. When things are going well, the volume's not that high. When things are not going well, you crank up the volume to 10 or whatever the case is. I think I've heard somebody say this, that if you go to a restaurant and you really like the food and you really like the experience, you tell one person. If you go to a restaurant, you didn't like the food or you didn't like the experience, you tell 9 or 10 people. Mm-hmm. That's just typically, unfortunately, how it goes. I think with Anthony Davis, the less that we've heard about him this year means somehow, obviously, he's got to be going on. That's a positive, because when things aren't going good, local talk shows, national talk shows, TV, radio, it doesn't matter. Everybody's talking about Anthony Davis. This year, and I'm going to play out a little bit off of what you just said. If the Lakers were, let's say they were exactly what we expected them to be before the season started.
Better than this.
Let's just say they're top 4 in the Western Conference.
Sure.
Nothing crazy. You don't have to have the best record in the West, but they're top 4 in the West. And they're 8-9 games over 500, something like that, which isn't a crazy stretch. That's what most people thought they would be before the season started. Then there would be legitimate conversations. I'm not telling you he'd be the lead candidate, but there would be legitimate conversations about Anthony Davis as an MVP. There'd be yesterday, end of the game. Crowd is chanting MVP for Anthony Davis. I get it. They do that for Austin Reeves. They do it for other players as well. I understand
Russell.
I understand that that's something that's used loosely.
Sure.
But it wasn't last night. That was
accurate.
a Laker fan base that was appreciating somebody that's missed 2 games all year long. That last night specifically, and we're not talking about just last night, but if I just kind of narrow into last night, was 11 for 11 from the free throw line. Was, I think, 11 for 15 from the field. Had the defensive play on one side to block Scotty Barnes that set up the Lakers on the offensive end, where AD got more buckets on the other end. I think what he's doing on both sides of the ball, he is no question about it an MVP candidate this year. Here's the problem. They're not good enough.
Yeah, they're 500.
The team's not good enough to support a player what he's doing individually.
There's a point where I think every great athlete is trying to get to, and very, very few accomplish it. Messi, Tiger Woods, LeBron James, Magic Johnson, Kobe Bryant, Tom Brady, right? These sorts of guys. That when they're transcendently good, you're not even a little surprised. Right? That when Messi goes out there and does the thing, you're like, well, yeah, that's what he does. When Tiger makes the shot, you're like, well, of course, it's Tiger. Kobe.
Freaking Tiger Woods.
Right.
That's what you're saying.
Right.
Yep.
It's like, did it again.
Yep.
And it's exciting, but it's not surprising. It's the next level down is, a guy can get there and frequently is awesome. That's kind of where Anthony Davis has been, right? Where you're frequently awesome, but you're also just frequently enough not awesome that when it happens, you're like, hey, that was wow, awesome. And I'm not putting Anthony Davis in a category of those other guys. That's not what I'm getting at. Right. But his consistent performance this year, and quite frankly, his consistent availability, we're starting to get to that point where it's like, hey, that was pretty good, man. Like, there's another 30.9. Hey, last time was it 41?
41.
Like, 41.9. That's pretty good that you're not like, whoa, where did that come from? It's just like, man, he's on fire. And he's there every night. And we're starting to get to that, and I'm crossing fingers, toes, and everything else that his consistent level of very, very good is not surprising anymore, and that's a really good sign. That means that you're around all the time. That means that you're hitting that target all the time. And now the next step is do it in the postseason, do it in a championship setting. But this is since the bubble, really? Where we've seen him, and a great night from him is no more, hey, did you see AD last night? It's like, yeah, was AD good again? Yeah, he's really good. That's that next step.
Prior to this level that he's at right now, we used to look at him as if he went down, oh, I hope he gets up. Cross your fingers. Hopefully he's not hurt. Hopefully his knee's like okay, or his ankle, whatever it is. That was the way we looked at it. We didn't look at it.
Have you turned the page on that?
Still, when he goes down, I'm still kind of like, oh man, I hope he gets up.
So you're right. There's a perception. There's a perception that's been built, especially, last year's playoff run. Use it as an example. You hold your breath anytime something happens.
No doubt.
To start this year, and let's not pretend. I mean, Lakers are 38 games in. 20 games ago, you don't feel you should feel a little bit different. Now, what that means moving forward, we'll have to wait and see. But 20 games ago, we're still waiting for where's the bad game.
Of course.
20 games ago, we're still saying, I just hope that it's not even – it's how many games is Anthony Davis going to miss? And by the way, there are a lot of good players that miss games, but AD right now is on pace to play 75 games plus this year. He's on pace to get to 75 games
I'm glad you
plus.
said that out, because if I would have told you, when does the season start, like the first week in October? Right?
Something like that.
Okay. Yeah. If I would have told you October 1st, Anthony Davis is going to play in 72 games this year, what would you have?
I think we already did this.
Okay.
I think we did something that I think the number was 60. And I think we said for Braun and Anthony Davis, would you take 60 right now? And I said yes.
Of course, maybe even
take
55 or 58, right? 70 seemed like a pipe dream. Well, he's on pace to play more than 70. And look, we'll see. It's half the season. But
of course, got a long way to go.
What felt absurd at the beginning of the season, at the halfway point of the season, doesn't. That's what I'm getting at with him. It's not just that he had a really good night last night, which he's Anthony Davis. He's going to have a ton of really good nights. But it's the consistency of A, just availability, and B, performance that feels like we're creeping back up into that. That's just one of the best players in the league. Why are we surprised when he has a great night? We're not anymore. That's one of the, pick your number, 5, 8, 10, 12 best guys in the league, and no one's going to go, no, he's like, oh yeah, absolutely he is.